Please put your hands together for Attorney Carmelo L. Garcia.
Good afternoon, everyone. Friends and colleagues in the aviation industry. Certainly very nice to be here with you. I hope this continues every year. And when there is collaboration, amazing things can happen. And when there's unity, there's a signal of good things to come. Anyway, my brief talk is about economic regulation of the aviation industry, and I will segue to investment opportunities. And so, just to put context to my short talk, the aviation industry is the most global of all industries, as we say. For one, it is governed by the International Civil Aviation Organization, which is a United Nations agency. When I was small, we learned in school, it's called ICAO, but I realized when I was in the aviation industry, it's now called ICAO. Sounds weird, but ICAO. And it's global because it's sustained by a global supply chain system, that is also vulnerable to geopolitical upheavals, economic cycles, and other earth-shaking events. Without aviation, I think there is no country that would thrive or grow because it is the lifeblood, or not lifeblood, but the lifeline of all countries. They say it's the circulatory system of the globe because it connects people, allows for people-to-people exchange, allows for trade, tourism, and investments to flourish. And without the global airline industry, we will be the doldrums. But for many years, the aviation industry has been strictly regulated prior to the 70s. And the result of that strict regulation is a very stagnant industry, very high fares. Air travel was only for the elite. And, governments in the late 70s, led by the US and the European Union, realized that aviation basically is a competitive and market-driven industry and should not be regarded strictly as a public utility. And user charges should be driven by market forces rather than governments fixing and determining the fares. So, the globe, the world was swept by a tide of liberalization, beginning with the 1978 Airline Deregulation Act of the United States, followed suit by the European Union, which reached our shores sometime in the 90s. And the essence of this liberalization or the regulation is to allow competition to thrive, and for competition to drive the market and market forces to drive the user charges. And the result was a phenomenal growth in the aviation industry that we see today. And, air travel was democratized in the Philippines. The Filipinos are still one of the least traveled people in the world, but we are catching up. But, as they say, the good comes with the bad. Left to their own devices, there is a distinct possibility that the industry would descend into chaos because when there is an explosion of traffic, a very complicated revenue management system, unbundling of fares, and a lot of flights, then there would be a lot of issues. No? When you have more and more flights, the resources of the airports, the infrastructure is stretched to the limits, and therefore more delays and cancellations and more problems. So I think even with the regulation, countries all over the world, maybe I just think, has a semblance of regulation in varying degrees. Even the United States, the staunchest proponent of open skies and the regulation, they have consumer protection regulations, the EU's consumer protection regulations, and the Philippines is at the forefront of passenger protection. In 2012, we came up with a clearly defined set of rules about consumer protection. And I think when we talk of regulation, passenger or consumer protection is part and parcel of economic regulation, because consumer protection is also affects the economics of an airline, and even as the airline industry is now regarded as not being strictly what we call a public utility, it's still considered as a public service undertaking, even in the Philippines, meaning that airlines are supposed to provide a service, a need for adequate and efficient air transportation, convenient air transportation. And that is within the realm of economic regulation. And so, countries all over the world, even the EU, they have come up with passenger protection mechanisms to protect passenger rights. So these are the legislations and regulations that govern the aviation industry in the Philippines. And notable there, it's not a legislation, it's Executive Order 219. It heralded, ushered the dawn of liberalization and competition in the Philippines. It was issued in July 5 of 1995 by then President Ramos. And 1995. That's 2011. So, the Philippines now has a very competitive aviation industry. We have a three-cornered competition between three main airline groups, and it has reaped dividends for our riding public. As I say always, air travel has been democratized in the Philippines. Now, and so, I think there was a period in time that the traffic in the Philippines grew fourfold for a 10-year period. In fact, global traffic in 2019 was about 4.5 billion from about 2.45 billion in 2009. So that's about a 10-year period. In the Philippines, we are on catch-up mode. We had about 60 plus million traffic in 2019. We're still behind our Asian brothers, the members of the ASEAN, but we are catching up. So, economic regulation, maybe I only have 20 minutes. I will go to investment opportunities. I'm sure it was discussed already earlier. These are, okay, this is the traffic in 2019, domestic, plus international is about more than 60 million. And our domestic traffic right now is catching up, but the international traffic is still far off from the 2019 figure. What is the next? Domestic air freight. These are the cargo carried on the belly of combination services. There was an uptick in 2021. yung international, there's an increase, especially with the advent of e-commerce. This is one of the ways that the airlines were able to sort of compensate for their losses during the height of COVID. Okay. Investment opportunities in the Philippines, public-private partnership. We are deep into this system and it has reaped dividends for us. We have a very modern airport in Cebu, Clark, many other good airports, world class, and this is because of public-private partnership. We have some other programs in the offing, expansion, and of course the New Manila International Airport is in the pre-development stage. When we say public-private partnership, what always comes to mind is privatization. But actually, the more common mode of this kind of partnership is what we call private participation. And it can take the form of maybe a minority share ownership of shares by an airport entity, maybe a lease agreement, maybe a management and operation agreement with the government. And there are distinct advantages, because most countries, including the Philippines, are cash-strapped. And with the public-private partnership, then the government is able to allow or, come up or have airports financed by private entities. And so there is a distinct advantage, not only in terms of financial resources, but if a privatized airport is doing well, it also generates revenues for the government. So that is a two birds in one shot, so to speak. And what would be the advantages of this kind of partnership? Number one is innovation, because when an entity is profit-oriented, then they will think out of the box. They promote the airport. I saw it with the Bactan, operated by GMR, which is now in partnership with the Boitis Group. They go out of their way, use cutting-edge technology, sell the airport, and it's now our template. Our template, that is why we also want to privatize the IA airport, which pales in comparison with the airports in Cebu and Clark. So our secretary and Undersecretary Lim, they went on a road show. They had a road show in Europe and Singapore to attract proponents for the rehabilitation of the NAIA, which is going to be privatized. So, one other advantage for me, which is I think very important, is the fact that there is now a strong, I'm just bago di binata. Maybe now a strong airport management, global airport management industry. And what it means is that management and operation of airports can be in the hands of management experts. That's a distinct advantage. But of course, there are potential risks because it is profit-oriented. There is a higher risk of, there's an increased risk of higher user fees, risk of monopoly, discrimination, and equal access. But we can deal with it. The Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines is authorized under the law to fix, manage, and oversee the airports. We have a bill in Congress that would create an airport authority that would do this function, but it was not passed during the last Congress, but it was repealed refine this Congress, and hopefully this can be passed into law. No? But even without that law, we are pretty sure that the CAAP will be able to do its job in regulating the airport. And what are the hallmarks of a good, 5 minutes? What are the hallmarks of a good, management of an airport? The ICAO set certain guidelines and standards. Number one is, in terms of usage charges, there should be transparency, there should be consultation, and the fee should be cost-based. Should be cost-based. And of course, without undue discrimination, equal opportunity for entry. So just the bill that I mentioned, that would regulate airports in the creation of the Philippine Airport Authority. So moving forward, I firmly believe that we are on track, especially with the PSA law, Public Service Act. The amendment is very recent, it's a very new law. And this is a landmark law in the sense that this will open up, not only this will open up, but it has opened up the aviation industry to foreign investments, because now the aviation industry, including the airports, are not considered anymore as strict public utilities. It's still called public service undertakings, but they are not required anymore to be compliant with the substantial ownership requirement for Filipino nationals, which used to be 60% minimum equity of Filipino nationals, but now it can be 100% owned by foreign. So that's a major stride that we have made. I think we are quite ahead in this regard. And so I see a bright picture in terms of developing our airports, and a lot of them are in the pipeline. So I think I was within the time. So with that, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to give my small share in this afternoon affair. Thank you very much.